9. This is where MAGA comes to talk. All right, so this is my second day in California, and I'm staying on East Coast time because I'm only here for the weekend. I'm not here long enough to change my schedule. So it's 5 a.m. here on the left coast, and I'm going through some of these news stories, and I wanted to talk about the JFK file release, and I want to talk about these Cassidy Hutchinson text messages that everyone's talking about. Now, here I am sitting in Los Angeles, California, wearing a Make America Great Again hat. The president's coming to town today, to Los Angeles. President Trump, our greatest president, our 45th and 47th president. And I'm not going to be the only one in a MAGA hat in town today. Apparently, Governor Newsom is planning some confrontation with Trump. Newsom said, I'm going to greet him at the airport whether he wants me there or not. Give me a freaking break. Just quickly, I want to talk about the Cassidy Hutchinson text messages, okay? Now, they're saying that there's sexually explicit text messages, that members of Congress were asking her for sexual favors. Come on. Anything's possible with Congress. Congress is filled with low-life scumbuckets. There's no getting around that. But with that being said, do you believe it? Or is this another lie that Cassidy Hutchinson is promoting? There's no way to know. I mean, these Congress people are complete low-life scumbuckets, right? Especially the Democrats. So it is entirely possible that something like that happened. I'm not saying that it's not true because we don't know. But I also know that Cassidy Hutchinson is a known liar and perjurer, and you can't believe anything she says. So if it came from her and the texts are not produced and verified, you can mark it off as a lie. I mean, I'd have to see the context. I'd have to see the text, and then I'd like to see the full text to find out what happened. And what I mean by the full text, I'd like to know if such a text exists, did she initiate that conversation, right? If there's an explicit conversation between Cassidy Hutchinson and Congress people, did she start it or did they start it? There's if you are a member of Congress, if you're anyone and you're putting things like that in a text message, you're an idiot. But you never know with Washington. But I'm very suspect of anything Cassidy Hutchinson has to say. Yeah, so I came out to get coffee because I didn't want to wake my daughter up. We were up really late last night and went out and had an incredible dinner, which I recorded. I made a vlog I'm making a vlog about my entire trip, so you get to see some of the things I've been doing out here. But just going through her house, I'm going to wake her up. So I thought I'd go out and have some coffee. And it's really cold out here. I didn't bring a jacket. All I have is this one sweatshirt, this one hoodie. But I didn't want to wake her up. I'll wake her up when I go back to her house. It takes two to tango. It seems crazy to me that a member of Congress would initiate a sexual conversation with someone who's a witness in a high-profile hearing. It does take two to tango, but it just, whoever that congressperson is, should, if it's true, should be run out of Congress because they're not mentally fit. And she's not all that. I mean, why would some congressman put everything he has on the line for her? She's not. I don't think she's attractive at all. That's just me. To each his own. Now, I wanted to also comment on the JFK files. The JFK assassination was so long ago, those things are actually on paper. I don't expect much in those files. Do you? We may get lucky, but my guess is most of whatever would be juicy in the files was long destroyed. And another thing is this. I think probably don't most Americans, I think, don't all Americans believe that the U.S. government killed Kennedy? What do you think? Did the U.S. government kill President Kennedy? Yes or no? I think the U.S. government killed Kennedy, both Kennedys and Martin Luther King. Yeah. I think all three of them were killed by the U.S. government. So people have been wanting the files forever, and I mean, I want them all released too. Yeah, everyone believes U.S. government. Same people that shot Trump, right? But say it was the U.S. government, because most all of us believe that it is. Yeah, this is my daughter's car. I'm not too far from her house. I didn't stray far from the house. So I am surprised because I left at, I went to Starbucks at 4:30, and there were a lot of cars on the road. I was surprised how many cars were on the road at 4:30. But let's say we're right. The U.S. government killed Kennedy, right? Why would they have files documenting their crime of killing Kennedy? You understand what I mean? And so far as the Warren Commission, President Ford was on the commission, and no show today. Best of. There's a best of today. I gotta have a couple days off, guys. I gotta rest my brain and my thought a little bit. So, if the U.S. government killed Kennedy, which we all believe they did, why would they have documents documenting their crime? And President Ford, Gerald Ford, was on the Warren Commission, right? He's the only person to become president without getting elected, meaning he was not even elected vice president. You know, so that was kind of his reward when the deep state set up and pushed Nixon out of the way. So I don't expect much of anything in those files. Even if there was something in the files, all these years later, wouldn't they have destroyed it by now? Yeah, everybody here is saying that there's a new fire somewhere in the Los Angeles area. So I don't have my hopes up. The Bobby Kennedy totally exposed all these assassinations, in particular his father. Robert Kennedy, this is according to Bobby Kennedy Jr., and I think it's fair to say he's the top expert on these things, since it's defined his entire life. But Bobby Kennedy Jr. says, and I never knew this. I never knew this. And maybe this is very common knowledge, but I never knew this until just a short time ago, in the last few months, when Robert Kennedy was talking about it, that RFK was shot in the back. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. said that his own bodyguard killed him. Wow. Now, Martin Luther King, I think we know the least about. But I think Martin Luther King, I think J. Edgar Hoover was behind that. J. Edgar Hoover was paranoid and terrified of Martin Luther King. In fact, you know, all those stories that you hear, you know, all these things they say that Martin Luther King, you know, had a woman in every city that he was sleeping with, having sex with, and had a mistress, and most of the stories say they were white women. Come on. You know, that's J. Edgar Hoover misinformation that tried to turn people against Martin Luther King because, well, the sex scandal is big, but for a black man to be having sex with white women back in those days was, in some places, illegal where the Democrats were running things. So that's the one we know the least about. I think I am very, very certain that J. Edgar Hoover was behind Martin Luther King's assassination, but he could have been behind all of them. Yep, this is streaming live from California. And, I was talking to my daughter and her friend last night, and I was telling them, my daughter agrees with this, but her friends don't quite get it. Coming to California, California is, it's like coming to another country. It's like coming to another country. They have a different culture, and they are in total rebellion against the United States government at all times. I mean, look at how, I was telling, we were at dinner last night. I was telling my daughter's friends, and they think I'm nuts. And I told them, I said, look at what just happened with the fires, right? The reservoir's empty, and the fire hydrants don't work. And people are outraged by it because the fire department couldn't put the fire. And Newsom's attitude is, how dare you point that out, right? And I was telling them, I said, Trump. I was telling them last night. Now they're not MAGA people. They're all young, right? Because of my daughter. It's my daughter and her friends. My daughter's MAGA. Don't worry. They haven't. The body snatchers haven't taken her brain away. But I said that, Trump won for many, many reasons, but a large part of Trump's victory was a rejection of all this woke DEI crap that you guys have as a religion out here in California. And they didn't quite get that. But when I went to the airport yesterday, it was raining, so I was wearing my MAGA hat, and I wore it on the whole flight out here. I had set my alarm because I wanted to be up by this time if I slept in. I wore my MAGA hat on the whole flight here, and I didn't realize it at first, and because I wear it so much. And I go to the bathroom on the plane, and then I say, oh, I got my MAGA hat on. I didn't realize. And when I walked back to my seat, nobody said anything to me, but I got some weird looks from some people, and when I got off the plane at LAX and I was walking through the terminal, I could tell that some people in the airport have never seen like someone wearing a MAGA hat in person before. Like they only see it on TV. I can tell by the looks I was getting. It's pretty funny. No one said anything to me, but I'll tell you this: this is the only time that people are giving me weird looks. They probably thought I was nuts. This is the only time that I've worn my MAGA hat out somewhere where someone hasn't said, nice hat, or I like your hat. MAGA people, you ever have that happen to you? It's kind of like a greeting when someone wants to let you know they're MAGA. Like your hat, nice hat. I haven't heard any of that out here. Oh, boy, oh boy. But you always want to be polite. When you're wearing MAGA gear, you're representing President Trump. And when you're representing President Trump, you need to be very polite and well-mannered. That's right. Don't fit into the stereotype they have. Always be polite. In fact, be more polite maybe than you normally are. You're representing the president when you're wearing MAGA gear. That's right. That's right. So we got some plans for today. The schedule for Trump is a little vague. I'm going to be downtown today, so I don't know when President Trump's going to be here, and I'm not sure what his schedule is, because they've really kept it kind of under wraps. His schedule has not been released out here, and I'm flying home over the weekend. I'll be home over the weekend, so I'll be on the air Monday live. But my daughter said we could go and find where Trump's at, but I'm not going to have my daughter drive me around. I'm only here, for like 2 days to see my daughter. So I could see Air Force One at home, right? It parks down the street from my house. So I'm not going to drive. And she's seen it many times. I've taken her to see Air Force One and everything at Palm Beach. So I just don't know what the road closures and everything will be like, because he is flying into LAX. And there's a place I've always wanted to go to that I haven't been to, that we're going to go to today. But I'm a little behind on my coffee, because this is my first cup, and it's, I'm on East Coast time, so it's coming up on 8:15, even though it's only 5:13 here in California. And the gas price, I can't believe the gas prices. I'm gonna fill my daughter's car up with gas today when I'm done with this stream, and then I'll fill it up again when we leave, because my goodness. And it was so, it's so, people are just very strange here. I was talking to this guy on the airplane, and he just moved from California to Florida, right? And he's bi-coastal, right? He lives in California and Florida. And he was telling me that he has like a car in Florida and a car here, and he has an electric vehicle here in California. And do I feel safe? I don't know. I'm like a tourist here, so I don't know if I'm safe. Tourists never know if you're in a safe place. I'm in my daughter's neighborhood, so if it's not safe, I'd be very concerning to me. But so I'm talking to this guy. And so he has a car in Florida. He lives in Palm Beach, and a car here in Los Angeles. And he has an EV here, and he has a regular car in Florida. And he was telling me how he's having a hard time getting used to driving a gasoline-powered vehicle. It cracked me up. It's just like, and that made, like, I've never heard somebody say something like that before. And it made just like perfect sense to him. It's very strange. I don't know which is more different from the rest of the country. Like, because when I was telling my daughter and her friends, out of everywhere, and I've been all over the country. Right? I've not been to Alaska or Hawaii, but I've been all over the country in my life, and nowhere are the people more different in their mindset, the way they think, from the rest of the country than California. And no matter where I've been in the United States, people have different things they're into, or different accents, and you wear different kind of clothing because of the weather, or what's popular in that area. But no, the mindset of the people in California is completely different than the mindset of the rest of the country, more so than anywhere else. And it's just very strange. So I don't know what is. Well, I'll give you an example. My daughter took me to this grocery store yesterday by her house. I don't know what the freak it was. It was all Asian products. I didn't even know that, like, they had the produce section, the fruits and vegetables. I didn't even know what this stuff was that I was looking at. I couldn't identify it. I didn't even know what these fruits and vegetables were. And I'm going through the grocery aisles, and I told my daughter, I said, if I had to shop at this grocery store, I'd starve to death, because I don't know what any of this food is, and I wouldn't know what to do with it. I could buy potato. They had get this. They had seaweed Lay's potato chips. Yeah, it was a Chinese grocery store. It was called Great Wall, like Great Wall of China, or something like that. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this stuff, And Then we, well, yeah, it was a Chinese market, but it was huge, huge. I've never seen anything like it, you know. And then she took me to this. She took me to this. Um, I don't know how to explain it. It's a market, but it's like a food court in a mall, you know. And it's got all these restaurants like you have at a food court at a mall. I've never heard of any of them. None of them are American, you know. And they have these weird drinks. So I got this very strange California drink made with pure sugarcane. It was really good, but it was just bizarre. And my daughter got this. I thought it was like yogurt or ice cream, but it had like yogurt and yams in it and nuts and strawberry. I didn't even know what it was. I'm like, what the hell is this? And everybody else seems to know what's going on. And then last night, though, there's one thing they have out here that I really like. I really, really like is it's Culture Shock. We went to, CCP soup. We went to dinner at a Korean barbecue. Now, I've documented all this. I've been making a YouTube video. I don't know if I'll put it on this channel or my vlogging channel. But I'm just going to do like one long video of my entire trip. I was going to do like some short vlogs, but I'm going to do one long video of not everything I'm doing out here because I want to hang out with my daughter. I don't want to spend the whole time with my daughter filming stuff for YouTube, but I'll have it up beginning of the week. Oh yeah, we went to a Korean barbecue last night. I took her and her friends out to dinner, and or her and her friend out to dinner to a Korean barbecue, which I love. Korean barbecue. You cook the food yourself, and I ate so much food that I did not think I was gonna. I didn't know how to eat it. They had no silverware. I had to eat with chopsticks, and there was one other white guy in there. Everybody else was mostly Korean. Oh, I love Korean barbecue. I love Korean barbecue. It was very, very good, but we don't have things like that in Florida. I'm sure there's a Korean barbecue in Florida, but it's not like the one here. Yeah, I did see they had these green soda things. I guess that was cucumber. But, but you'll see. I'll put the vlog up when I'm done. Cattle fornication. It's not like that. That TV show with David Duchovny. Oh man, but I'm having a great time. I'm having a great time. And I went to In-N-Out Burger. When I got off the plane, we went out and ate at In-N-Out. But yeah, no, I love the Korean barbecue. And I did like that fancy drink. But I don't know how people live out here. The prices are insane. The prices are freaking insane. Everything is more expensive. Everything. And I feel like people, now again, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like people in California, they're like that lesbian bishop, that was inappropriate with the president the other day. You know how condescending she was? Not only is that bishop condescending, she thinks she's a better person. She's everything Christians are not supposed to be, especially a leader in the church. She's a woman. She's self-serving. She's condescending, But she thinks she's above everybody, that she's superior intellectually and emotionally and everything else, that bishop. I think people in California like paying higher prices. They feel like they're doing something better. They're like like they have a calling that the rest of us don't have. I don't know. That's how I feel. What do you guys think? She's an activist. That's right. Trump handled her perfectly. He didn't storm out, didn't do anything because he'd elevate her. That's what she wanted. You know what she's like? She's the old lady. You know what that bishop is like? She's the old lady version of Greta Thunberg. who's a complete lunatic. Now she's moved on from global warming, and now she's an anti-Israel activist. Is that her name, Greta Thunberg? How dare you go to the children for the answers? No one's going to the children for the answers, okay? That's what that bishop is like. That's Greta Thunberg like in 50 years. Yeah. Yeah, Greta's granny. Exactly. But no, everything is so expensive. Yeah, my daughter, I told I just can't believe how much stuff is out here. I asked my daughter if there's like a normal grocery store like Florida in the area. They're not too popular here. How dare, yeah, Greta Thunberg. How dare you go to the children for the answers? She's completely insane. And she stopped growing, if you noticed. She hasn't grown since that UN thing. She looks like a character out of Star Trek. Which one? No, I want my Publix back. Oh my goodness. But that when I went to Starbucks, Starbucks has a policy nationwide where homeless people can stay there 24 hours a day. Did you know this? I've talked about this before. Sometimes when I've live streamed from a Starbucks in Florida, there's a homeless guy there, and he lives at the tables in front of the Starbucks. And this guy, he's got a CPAP machine. He plugs into Starbucks and they give them free water. And this is a nationwide thing. And not only are they reversed in that policy, Starbucks, when I got my coffee, they said to me, the barista, because it was a guy, the barista guy, he says, oh, just to give you a heads up, I think he said next month. He said starting whenever water is only available at no charge for paying customers. Like, anytime you go to Starbucks and buy something, they'll give you a free ice water. So I usually get one. So they're kicking out the homeless out of Starbucks, even in California. It's not safe. No, so I guess they're fed up with them here. I know I am. But I was trying to get my daughter on East Coast time, and that didn't work out. So getting back to the issues of the day, because there's a lot of them. If you just joined, I was talking in the beginning about Cassidy Hutchinson and these sex text stories. I just don't, again, we do not know if it's true or not. We have very little information, but I do know this. Cassidy Hutchinson is a known liar and perjurer. So if she's the source of that information, how could you believe it? And I'm wondering if it's something she's creating because she's scared. The J6 committee got pardoned, but Cassidy Hutchinson didn't get pardoned. So the J6 committee and their entire staff of each one of those scumbuckets was pardoned by Biden, and Cassidy Hutchinson didn't get pardoned. And we know that not only did she perjure herself, not only did she lie to Congress, which you can go to prison for, she coordinated with Liz Cheney to do it. So a couple days later, all of a sudden, they're telling us she's getting these sex texts from Congress people. You know what I mean? It's like she's looking for a way to protect herself a little bit. She's probably scared. She should be. You go to prison for what she did. But like I say, if they do come out and it's true, I want to see who initiated the sexual conversation. Was it her or the congressman? Liz, yeah. Now, if you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe, guys. I'm just on a short weekend vacation to California. I mean, but don't you find it a little odd that, right, you don't think when those pardons came down, she got nervous? She should be. she's 25. She looks older. She looks like she's 35. My daughter is sleeping. She is sleeping. Yeah, we got information. You know, she was you know, just because these Congress people are pardoned doesn't mean they can't be compelled to testify. And when these pardon, you know, when you get a pardon, you get a pardon for crimes of the past, not future crimes, right? So Liz Cheney, you know, members of Congress over the years have gone to prison. It's not unusual. But Liz Cheney is no longer a sitting member of Congress. She got pardoned for her crimes, whatever they may be, you know. But when you have a pardon or an immunity deal, you cannot take the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment of the Constitution gives you the constitutional right not to incriminate yourself. If you have an immunity deal or you're pardoned, you can't be prosecuted, so you can't incriminate yourself. So you can't take the Fifth Amendment. So if they called, if Pam Bondi or even Congress called Liz Cheney in to testify about the collusion with Cassidy Hutchinson, not only does she have to do it, if she lies, she could go to prison, Liz Cheney. If she lies, she can go to prison. And yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And that's some hardcore crimes. So, and this idea that all the records were burned and everything, in this age of computers, nothing is ever forever gone. So, Liz Cheney could really get jammed up with Cassidy Hutchinson. And believe me, you know, Trump's press conference yesterday, again, I just, you know, I was talking to my wife last night on the phone, and about the way President Trump's handling the press, which is beautiful. And he's not dueling with him. He's not arguing with him. He's not explaining himself, you know. In the first term, when he was dueling with the press, what he was doing, and is he was putting them up on his level, like they're his equal, like they are at his equal to question him. And right now, he has taken the position, I am the president of the United States. Shut the F up and show some respect. And a friend of mine, Brad, he's one of our cruisers. He watches on YouTube, and he lives in Northern California, and he goes on our cruises. And he texted me a photograph of President Trump with the presidential seal. And I noticed this too, but I hadn't had the time to research it. But President Trump is using an older presidential seal that has not been used since the 40s or 50s for the presidents. It's like not an updated version of the presidential seal. It's an older version of it, like from the Roosevelt era and before. And I was texting with Brad yesterday, and I said he is, you know, President Trump has plans to establish his place in history, and so much that he is doing right now is just for that. You know, and I'm going to do some research onto that seal. I noticed it was a different seal, but I just haven't had a chance to look it up. Well, Cassidy, you know, this is an interesting thing because some people are saying, well, you know, and that's why all of a sudden everybody gets pardoned but her, Cassidy, and then all of a sudden she's some sexual harassment victim. She's trying this congressional Me Too, Harvey Weinstein stuff. And even if it's true, so what? So what? You know? But he's handling everything just in such a different way. This is going to be the most productive presidential term maybe in history. Really, truly is. Everything he's doing is so amazing, and he's doing so much it's even hard to keep up with. And that's part of his strategy, by the way. He has so many balls up in the air that he's doing that the media they can't even deal with it. And I was talking on one of my live streams. It was the day before yesterday. I was talking about this on one of my live streams. I was watching The Five day before yesterday, and they were talking about the bishop, right? And Fox was doing a lot about the bishop, Ingram, all of them in primetime. That story was over a day old at that point. I know it was a story, but it was over a day old. 20 things had happened since then. And, I had talked about it a little bit in the morning, but I talked about it the night before on my podcast. Well, my last podcast episode's about that. Then I talked about it a little bit on Wednesday morning on the air about it. And then Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday night, they're still talking about it on Fox, which is really, even when I was talking about it Wednesday, there were so many new things happening. I knew this would probably be the last time I'd be talking about the bishop unless she pulled something else. And so this is why I think they were talking about the bishop on the Five and Laura Ingraham was. The press, the press are not equipped for the way Trump is handling things. They're used to being, okay, let me give you an example, okay? About 25 years ago, I listened to this interview with a guy, I don't remember his name, but he was one of the bureau chiefs for one of the big networks, ABC, CBS, or NBC. I think it was ABC, but he was the bureau chief for one of the big three networks in Moscow when the Soviet Union fell. And that was a really fascinating time, by the way. If you ever go back, Perestroika and all that, it's amazing stuff to go back and see what was going on over there. And not only was he there when the Soviet Union fell, he continued in Moscow for a few years after. And he was talking about that when the Soviet Union fell, for years after, the press over there, they really didn't have any news, even though all these things were going on. And he said they had, Pravda, right? They had the newspaper, they had the television, but none of them were reporters. They would get what they were supposed to say from the party, and then they would print it in Pravda, or they would put it in the teleprompter and go on the air on the Russian state television news. There were no reporters. They didn't know what questions to ask. They didn't know how to find stories or research stories or write stories because it was given to them by the party. Well, I'm starting to see so much of that being true with the American media. The American media, because Trump's not dueling with them, and Carolyn Levitt, she hasn't had a press conference yet, unless I missed it, and there's none scheduled. President Trump and the White House under President Trump are not feeding things to the media by not having these daily press conferences with the press secretary, by him not dueling with the press, right? So the reporters in Washington are idiots. They're not real reporters. And the reason that Fox was talking about the bishop Wednesday night when the story was 26, 27 hours old is because they don't know how to grab these other stories and talk about them. They can only talk about what's fed to them. They're basically all plagiarizers. And you're really seeing that. They seem very, very lost. I mean, does that make sense, what I just said to you guys? I mean, I don't know. I'm behind on my coffee, so I don't know if I'm articulating as well as I normally would. But do you understand what I'm saying about that? Because I find the news media so weak with all this news that's going on. Now, what I do involves a lot of logical thinking and things. But now I want to tell you this, okay? And I'm going to recommend you all do this. Some of you may have known couple months ago, a listener sent me a brand new paperback version of The Art of the Deal. Okay. And I read The Art of the Deal during the first campaign. Okay. Because, you know, wanted to learn more about Trump. And I brought it on the plane and started reading it again on the plane. It was like I've never read it before. It is so much. Now that, you know, because I read it like, when was that? Like 10 years ago, 10 years ago, you know, and so much, we've gotten to know Trump so much more since then. It is a great book, The Art of the Deal. It is a beautiful book. If you've read The Art of the Deal in the past, go and read it again, and don't go through it quickly. Take your time. I was reading it on the plane, and I couldn't put the book down. It's so damn good. It's fantastic book, and it's and because you since we know Trump so much more than we did back then. He's the same guy now that he was then. It is really, really interesting. You know, it's about his business dealings, but he handles the world leaders and the politics just like he did his business dealings. And if these idiots in Washington would go back and read the book, they would understand him. They don't understand us. They don't understand him. But I find the second reading of The Art of the Deal just incredible. You know, there's a handful of books that I would recommend people read, you know, a handful of books. Not all of them are political books. I'll tell you the Edmund Morris 2-part biography of Teddy Roosevelt. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's spectacular, especially part 1. Part 1 is up until he becomes president, then part 2 is his presidency, you know. And I mean, those are great books. You know, there's not that many books I'd recommend people read. But The Art of the Deal you need to reread it with the perspective you have now towards President Trump. And it was just blowing my mind. You know, the first paragraph, this is a paraphrase. I don't have it here. It's at my daughter's house, but I might read it on the air one day next week. The first paragraph, because it's all about his business, you know, he says, this is a paraphrase, but he says, I don't do this because I need the money. He says, I have more money than I will ever need, right? And he's selfless. You know, so go back and read over again if you've already read it. And if you've never read it, read The Art of the Deal. It's just it will register with you in a way it never did before. I know maybe it seems crazy to people that aren't MAGA, but very important book. And I'm reading it slowly. You know, I'm a very fast reader. I could go through a book really quick, but the Art of the Deal, the first page, I was like, whoa, this is crazy good. I'm reading it so slow because I don't want to miss anything that he says, right? And then I'll read a section or a chapter, and then I'll stop. All right, because I want what I read to sink in a little bit. It's really good. It's really, I mean, he's on a whole another level, and I really truly hope that he writes a detailed, you know who I think is going to end up writing the definitive book about President Trump's presidencies and the 4 years in between? Barron Trump. I think one day Barron Trump is going to release a presidential biography on his dad from the moment he came down the escalator, first term, the 4 years in between, the second term, and I really do, because he's been there since he was a little boy, like 10, 11 years old, to the whole thing. But I'm really, really hoping that President Trump writes a very, very detailed autobiography of his entire presidency. You know, I mean, like, I know. I, I remember when Bill Clinton left office, he had this obscenely big book. It was like this thick. It was like a bug killer book, Bill Clinton. And it was it called My Life or something? You know, didn't accomplish all that much. Bill Clinton's presidency was mediocre. He'll be a forgotten president. The only reason he will not be forgotten is because of the sex scandals. And he still may even be forgotten, But President Trump, I was talking about the Edmund Morris biographies of Roosevelt. It's a 2-volume set. They're so good. And each one, I've got both of them in paperback, are about that thick. And I like books that are short, but his life was so full of interesting things, Teddy Roosevelt, it was worthy. And every little thing that President Trump is doing right now, okay, I want to know everything, a play-by-play. I give you an example. Trump had to go through the roof when Vivek started this H-1B visa, MAGA civil war, right? I want to know every detail, and now he got fired from the Doge. I want to know every little thing about that. Don't you? I want to know every little detail. I want to know every little detail about every moment of this, especially the second term and the 4 years in between. Because things are going so smoothly. I want to know what planning he's been doing the last 4 years to prepare for the second term. He told Hannity if he didn't think he was going to win, he wouldn't have run. He got all those votes in 2020, so he knew, he could win it. And he obviously had been planning big time running for Senate seat. Now, they got rid of Megyn Kelly's even reported on this. Megyn Kelly, and she's on the inside. Not just Elon Musk, but a lot of people around Mar-a-Lago were just annoyed at Vivek Ramaswamy. They got rid of him. You guys know, I never trust this guy. That's Soros connection. Oh, let him run. Anybody can run. But no, they got rid of him. He was dropped. He was dropped. There's another presidential book that I'd recommend. There's a great biography. I can't remember the name of the author. There's a great biography of President Kennedy called An Unfinished Life. An Unfinished Life. That's another great presidential biography. It is fascinating to read all about President Kennedy's life in detail. And then there's a great biography on Lincoln. These are books I've read, and I keep them, right, because they're so good. There's another great presidential biography on President Lincoln. It's called Malice Towards None. That's also a great one. The Kennedy An Unfinished Life is a very good biography of President Kennedy. It'll blow your mind, that book, about what he did. The Kennedys are scumbuckets, don't get me wrong, but his life is pretty fascinating. You don't have to worry about Vivek. He's a billionaire. He'll be fine. But he was pushed out of the Trump circle. There's no getting around it. And he started that MAGA civil war, man, over the H-1B visas. He started that crap, and Trump doesn't want that. Waging Peace, the Eisenhower. Is that the one I read? The Eisenhower biography that I liked was the one that was written by I've read so many of his books. What's the guy that wrote Band of Brothers? I've read a whole bunch of his books. Band of Brothers, that great Lewis and Clark. He wrote a great book about the building of the Intercontinental Railroad. I can't remember his name offhand. Stephen Ambrose. Stephen Ambrose wrote an incredible biography of Eisenhower. He got to know Eisenhower. So that's a great presidential biography. It's the Stephen A. Ambrose Eisenhower biography. Is very, very good. you know. Oh, he's most definitely been pushed out, Vivek. Now, I'm curious to see if Vivek starts buddying up with Ron DeSantis. Well, the Stephen A. Ambrose is usually when I read biographies, I'm not, some of them, I don't read autobiographies too much because they're too self-serving. Although Trump, that's different. Because there's so much going on. There's so much intrigue going on. I want to know everything that he's been thinking and doing. But a lot of these biographies, they start out with when they're little kids, and I usually don't care about that. With Stephen Ambrose with the Eisenhower, you find out about what he was doing during World War I and the time between the two wars. It's amazing how he ended up being president. It's the reason he warned about the military-industrial complex is because he gave birth to it. He knew about it. He got kind of the unfinished life with Kennedy goes through so much of his youth, including his time in World War II, and there's a lot of things you just don't know. It's very good. The Malice Towards None on Lincoln, his whole upbringing as a child is just amazing. So these are, I would not recommend just a book because I like a president and you should read it. You can read a bio on a president you don't like and enjoy it too. But no, they most definitely dropped Vivek. No getting around it. And and I do mean it. When Trump's second term is over, I am going to most definitely try to find a way to volunteer at that presidential museum. And, eventually I'm going to semi-retire, and I really, really want to be a tour guide at Trump's presidential museum when I'm retired. I think I would be one of the best tour guides of that museum. There's no getting about it. No getting around it. There's just no getting around it. On the board, nah. All these rich fat cats will be on the board. I wouldn't want to be. No, I don't want to be that. I want to be able to. I love history. My education is in history. I have a college degree majoring in history, and also I have a history degree with a double major with education because I thought I would become like a social studies teacher one. And of course, I couldn't pay for this trip with a social studies teacher salary in Florida. But I could put my history degree and education degree to work at the Trump Museum. I would love to go through. The things that are going to be on display there, the snake poem, what he was wearing when they shot him in Butler, all of that. And and if you've ever been to presidential museums, I've been to a few. I've been to Nixon's. I've been to Carter's, which is pathetic. It goes through their whole life and presidency kind of in order. And I would just love to take people through that Trump Presidential Museum, walking through his whole life and his presidency. I think that would be amazing, especially living through it, right? Living through all of it. Oh, it'll be fantastic. I'm sure they'll let me wear my MAGA hat. Absolutely. Matt Gaetz, I don't know. I mean, the chances of him running for governor of Florida have decreased quite a bit because Byron Donalds looks like he's running. So, but I don't know. I like Byron Donalds, and we like him in the MAGA, but I have not. I've not seen him enough alone, meeting and greeting people and speaking on stage to know how he rallies the crowd up. That's a talent. I've seen Matt Gaetz around and on stage. When Matt Gaetz is on stage, I've met Byron Donalds. He's very impressive. and I've seen him speak in person, very close to him, and he's very good. I don't want to take anything, and I love Byron Donalds. But when Matt Gaetz goes on stage and speaks to a crowd, he is a movie star. You know, and he really gets the crowd going at a, you know, that's a skill set not too many people have, you know. Yeah, one of these trips, I'm going to start coming out here more to visit my daughter this year. And one of these trips, I want to go to the Reagan Museum. Oh, yeah, Byron Donalds is great. I mean, I'm going to vote for him for Florida governor, no doubt about it. But, you know, but this is, people don't understand this about Florida. The Bush family run the Republican Party of Florida, okay? Jeb Bush has so much juice in the Florida Republican Party, and the Republican establishment is pretty much out of business in D.C., but it's like they're exiled to Florida. And that's it. Look, they changed the law so DeSantis could run against Trump, right, and stay governor. So the Republican establishment in Florida, it depends on who they put up against Byron Donalds in the primary. You know what I mean? Jeb Bush is a lunatic, and it's not going to be just a walk-on for Byron Donalds if Jeb sets his mind against him. It's disgusting. Well, Jeb is on vengeance, you know. And obviously, DeSantis is running for president. You know, I saw him on Laura Ingraham the other night, and he's trying to sound like he's MAGA again. But you can't trust him. Jeb used to be all right before he was governor, okay? Steve and I knew Jeb for years before he was governor. And when he became governor, as soon as he became governor, he got very full of himself. And he just became a different person. But he was a very good governor when he was governor of Florida. He did some good things. But Rick Scott was the best governor we've had in my adult lifetime. Rick Scott, the senator, he's our senator now. He was the governor before DeSantis. He was the best. But when he became governor, Jeb, his ego got the best of him, and he just became a dick. Sorry, you know. And that he, you know, and he's one of these spoiled trust fund baby. You know, they have all these phrases with Trump. Oh, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He started on third base and thinks he hit a home run, all this crap. No, Trump doesn't think any of that. Jeb does. Jeb is a trust fund baby who inherited everything he has, and he doesn't know it. He thinks he's owed. He thinks he's deserved these things. And when he lost when he had to drop out of the presidential race, it was very humiliating. He's never gotten over it. In fact, if you want to see this is how pathetic Jeb is. In the first Republican debate with President Trump, all the candidates took a picture together on stage, right, with all of them grouped together. And someone had taken a picture from a little further away so you could see their whole bodies, because it was just a close-up. You could just see the head and shoulders of all the candidates. It was Trump and Jeb and Scott Walker and Ted Cruz and Marco and Huckabee, and, you know, there were like 15 of them, right? There were so many, 12, 15 of them. And just their head and shoulders, that's all that you saw. And then I saw this picture that you could see their whole body, and Jeb was standing on his tiptoes. And Jeb is very tall, but he was standing on his tiptoes to make sure he was just a little more taller. And I thought, wow, he's already taller than all of them. That's how pathetic he is. Yep, he's, you know, so don't think that Byron Donalds is going to be handed the governorship of Florida. Believe me, there's a lot of Republicans in Florida, these Republican establishment rhinos, that feel it's owed to them, and they're not just, and they're not, and they don't like MAGA. So don't be so confident that Byron Donalds is just going to walk into it. Believe me. Yeah, I love how, you know, about the police. I love how the Democrats are all of a sudden the defenders of the police, right? They wanted to defund them. They put police like Derek Chauvin in prison, but all of a sudden they're the defenders of the police, the Democrats. It's insane. Those Capitol Police, how do those guys even... The one guy with the neck tattoos, how do you become a cop with those neck tattoos? What about that one Capitol Police officer that weighs like 800 pounds? How does he become a cop? You know? Come on. The cop that murdered Ashley Babbitt, he was reprimanded for leaving his service weapon by the sink in the public men's room. You know, how does and he's a lieutenant. Did he get promoted after that? After he left his gun there? I mean, how does he stay on the police force when he does something like that? Yeah, tour guides. The Capitol Police basically are tour guides. They're like, you know what they are? They're like Ben Stiller in Night at the Museum. They're like, you know, security guards. And they're never nice. You know, have you ever been to the Capitol? I went to the Capitol years ago when my daughter was little, and they were just jerks. Typical liberals. Well, that Ferrone guy comes from a very wealthy family. There's something about that guy. You know, he's got that one tattoo that's a blackout tattoo. And there's only two things that people get tattoos blacked out for, right? Their ex-wife or girlfriend's name, and their new wife or girlfriend doesn't like it, or swastikas and stuff like that, white supremacist stuff. So I'd like to know why he has a blackout tattoo. What was really underneath that? Not what he says was underneath it. I'd like to see photographs of that neck tattoo before he blacked it out. Multiple photographs over a course of years that are examined to find out if they are real. Exactly. No, my daughter's very MAGA. Very MAGA. She's LA MAGA. LA MAGA. There's going to be a lot of MAGA hats in LA today since the president's coming to town. I've been talking about that the last few years, about the blackout tattoo. Have you ever known someone... Dark MAGA mode, guys. Have you ever known someone to get a blackout tattoo? It's either white supremacist swastika type stuff, or sometimes they'll get an old girlfriend's name or ex-wife's name off of them because their new lady doesn't like it. Blackout tattoo is a pretty serious thing in a big spot like that. And nobody has, in the press, has investigated that. That would say a lot about him. No doubt about it. Now, if you're new to my channel, make sure that you subscribe. All right? This is most definitely where MAGA comes to talk. All right, well, guys, I'm going to head back home to my daughter's house. I left because I was up doing stuff and I was going to wake her up. So I'm going to... But now it's a little after 6 a.m. here on the left coast in California. So I won't feel so guilty if I start to wake her up now at this hour. Because I told her, I said, I'm only out there for a couple days. I don't have time to adjust to Pacific time. You got to get a little bit more on my schedule so we can get stuff done. But we have some plans today I'm very excited about. And I have my vlogging camera. So I've been making a YouTube video of my trip. Oh, you know, one thing too, I'll show this on the YouTube video. A guy got arrested at the terminal for drugs when I was waiting to board the plane in Florida. I've never seen that before. It was so strange. They had there was a deputy with a dog, and it said bomb dog or something on it, you know. And she was standing at the terminal, and the dog was checking every passenger who was getting on the plane. And it was very unusual. So I'm like, something's wrong with this. So I could have gotten on the plane, but I didn't. I got to the back, and I'm going to wait to board, which is, I wanted to wait to board because I knew something was going on. And then the next thing I knew, these plainclothes cops come out of nowhere, and they grabbed a guy. He wasn't on my flight. He was on the flight right across from mine. And they cuffed him and everything. And this guy, it was not his first time being in cuffs. The guy that they arrested, he was not fazed by it. I mean, he didn't seem to mind at all. He knew what to do and was used to it. And my guess is whatever drugs he had, because I couldn't tell what drugs he had. When he went through the main security, the dogs got a whiff, but they didn't know who it was. So they'd been going around the terminal looking, and they caught him. And I got a little video. I got a video. I took out my phone, and I got a video of them arresting him and walking him off in cuffs. I'll put it on the video when I put it online. Pretty crazy. I thought the security was a little too heavy getting on my flight. And I'm like, something's wrong here. So I didn't know what was going to go on, but I was thinking, well, maybe I'll take the next flight. No, you could tell this was not your normal thing. I can't explain it, but I knew something was just not, they were looking for something or somebody. It was a little too intense. And the plainclothes cops, they were good undercover, man, because when they burst out their badges, I didn't even notice it at first. They had the guy surrounded before they did that. I don't have any, I'm not likely to get a single tattoo in my whole life. No way. No way. Well, listen, guys, I'm going to take off. So again, if you're new, make sure that you subscribe. And if you're already subbed, do me the favor of liking the video. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll be back over the weekend, and I'll be back live on the air Monday morning. All right. Thanks for watching. Take care.